So now this is just the title, which I was not able to rewrite in English. So the organization Women for Women is actually a private charity project of Mrs. and Mr. Tikach. And about our organization, was founded in 2012. And actually, it was founded by Ivana Tikach because she herself experienced in her life some period where she was left with 2 or 3, I don't remember, children alone when the husband left them. And for her, it was really like, you know, it was a classical single mother situation. She was left without money and without any support. So when she got rich, I could say, the original goal of founding this organization was to help mostly mothers, but of course, if there is a single father, then also, and their children, mostly in difficult situation when they were threatened by homelessness. And since then, Women for Women developed in quite big organization, having several projects, including counseling centers. And talking about the projects, the one I'm talking about later in more details is called I Reside, Therefore I Am. So it was like the first project. And then several years ago on the Czech TV, there was a spot informing about situations of many children in Czech schools whose parents were not able to pay for the school lunches. Because in our country, you really have, like, each school provides warm lunches according to, you know, a chart. So it should be like healthy, balanced food. But many parents just were not able to pay it. So therefore, Women for Women launched a project called Lunches for Children, which is very individually targeted for children from poor families. They don't have to be single families, but just poor up to certain standards. The children are chosen by the school, by the teachers and by the directors. And the lunches are paid for them, but they also have to cooperate. So if they would, you know, not go for these lunches paid for them, then the support ends. So it's quite complicated. And then later, you know, it was started like this private project of Women for Women, and later it became actually supported by Minister of Social and Labor Affairs and Ministry of School and Education. Sorry. And today it is a huge project, and several thousands of children are supported in the schools this way. And I think that last year I showed you a video, like a spot showing how important it is. And then, you know, last year with all these COVID challenges and distance learning, another project was launched, and it's IT for Children, meaning that Women for Women started to raise money and buying computers because many children from poor families weren't able to take part in this online education. So they were like for several months totally cut out of school, out of education. So that's another project which is still ongoing, of course. and then dealing with all the problems of single parents, and also parents like shortly before divorce, I would say. There was another project launched, Service of Relationships, which actually invites couples with children to try to solve their problems before they finally, before they really decided they should get divorced. And even if on the end they decide that the divorce is really necessary, then this project helps them to go through the divorce smoothly, not to damage the children. Sorry. The last one, which is similar, is called Service for Families, in cooperation with a district court in a town called Most. And it's a similar kind like the Service of Relationships. If a family already, meaning all the time family with children or couple with children, makes it to the court and they really want to divorce, this helps them to go through the divorce smoothly, and this very project is supported by the judges. So he is trying to, with the help of social workers and psychologists, to make the parents not to argue so much and not to damage the children. And concerning the counseling centers, as you can imagine, if you are in a difficult situation with children, very often also, you have some experience from domestic violence, then you need legal and social issues, advices, psychological help, and so on. And also one important part of all this is help with parental skills, because very often, according to our experiences, parents in such difficult situation, they doubt if they are good parents, they don't know what to do, how to behave towards children. And again, this counseling center help them to, to develop the parental skills and help them to go farther. So, and now, now something for the context. We help individual single parents, but we also raise issues connected to single parents and also to complete families in public. And we are also dealing with many politicians, with members of parliament, but also with regional politicians. And we try to propose solutions to solve these problems generally. And just to see some numbers, you see that we have, Czech Republic has 10 million inhabitants, and we have around 300,000 single families with dependent children. And in 83%, the single parent is a mother, and more than 30% live in poverty. I assume that these numbers will look similar in other European countries also. And as we can all imagine, to be single parent is really a struggle. And that's why Women for Women tries to help single parents to be stable, to feel secure for themselves and for their children. And also one other, let's say, reminder, which we also, it's nothing new, that the children growing up in poor single families have bigger risk to live in poverty themselves. And here you have some numbers from a research. Again, that of course, if a child is from single family, such child is most likely to live in poverty. And also here you can see the income. I have counted all to euro to have some better view. That 66% have monthly income of euro 375, which for the whole family. Sorry, if we imagine that you have to pay rent out of it and all kind of other things, it's really not enough. And also problem is that many of these families are like on the border to have some social benefits. So if they have bit more income that the border, that the bottom line of when you are entitled to the social benefits, that's a really bad situation, and we have many families, complete families and single families, which are troubled with this issue, and it means that you also don't have right to have some state support for housing, for example. So, and now, because to this project I reside, therefore I am, because today Breakfast Bytes are dedicated mostly to a housing project for single parents. And as we all know, to have a secure home is just a basic thing. You can't live normal and life if you have problems with housing. So that's why the first ever project of Women for Women focused on housing. And before I start to go to details, I have to tell you that in the Czech Republic, we do not have a law on social housing. And there were several attempts to have such law, but it never succeeded because many people have, and I would say including politicians, have a business in nowadays situation. So if there is a single family, and let's say there is a single mother with 2 children, she left the home with the children because of violent partner, and then if she goes to her municipality, there is like very small probability that she will have some flat from the municipality. And the very, very poor families in our country, they, even with very small children or with children of all ages, they very often, and in some like strange houses where they have a very small room and the toilet and kitchen, and bathroom are in the corridor together with other families. So, in these houses, there is a concentration of families with children, but also of people who have, who are alcoholics, drug users and everything, and they are all concentrated in one. Such children, if they start to go to school, they have no possibility how to do their homeworks in a proper environment. And the problem is that people living in such housing, they get social benefit from the states for it. Actually, but it's not the people themselves, but the owners of such houses are getting these benefits. And that's why I said at the beginning that many people, including politicians, actually have put business out of this. Because if you have such house and you move in people, the poorest people entitled to this housing benefits, meaning money, then you get money. So for you, it's very good business because such housing, though it's in terrible condition, is very expensive. So just this is, I think, very important to explain to you why the housing is such a big problem in the Czech Republic and why you need some private project like this, because it's really a disaster in our country. So this project consists of two programs. The first program is called Deposit for Housing. And this is for single parents who actually are able to take care of themselves. So they are able to pay rent, but if they want to move, they don't have enough savings to pay this deposit, which mostly is rent for 3 months. So therefore, sometimes they can't rent a normal flat. Or sometimes they would just love to move to a cheaper flat, but because they don't have this deposit, they can't actually move to cheaper flat, and they still have to pay the more expensive rents. And then, of course, they don't have the money for some other basic needs. And very often it leads them to take, to lend money from very problematic institutions. We have also big problems with this in our country. So, but on the other hand, money for the deposit is the only help they need. So it's quite simple, and therefore we started this project. So it's just really the goal is to provide families, single families with money for the deposit. And that's it. Then such families really do not need other support. And this money is either from the private funds of Mr. and Mrs. Tikach, or also, which you will see at the end of my presentation, we raise money from normal people, from just private funds through several public actions like advertisements, spots, and so on. And then this money, raised money goes directly to the deposits, because all the administration it's actually paid and taken care of by the foundation. And here is the second program, which is called First Year. And this program is for the other type of single families, because this is for those parents who really are in very difficult situation, not just housing. And they are not only threatened by homelessness, but they need also other complex help. So as you see on the presentation, it's like it goes, this help with housing goes in a package with for 1 year, also with psychological help for the client, for her or his children. We help them to take care of their finances, of the legal situation. We try to return them as soon as possible to the labor market, and after 1 year of being in our housing, we try to help them to to leave and have their own independent housing. And as I already said, so it includes the housing for clients and their children for 1 year. Either they have flat and they only need some financial contribution for the rent, or we are able to accommodate them in actually our accommodation, which Women for Women pay for. And as I already said, you have here all these kinds of activities with which the clients are helped. And also, very often these mostly single mothers have domestic violence, have experienced domestic violence. So they are really like in a very, very bad state when they arrive to ask help from Women for Women. So you really have to build their self-confidence again. And really some of the advices are very basic about these financial issues, how to manage with the income which I have. And it's really, really basic. And actually to take part in these counseling programs, it's a condition to have the housing. If a client doesn't take part in these activities, then the condition is that this client is kicked out of the housing. And again, because this session is focusing on the so-called supported housing, then I will tell you about the experiences. Because part of the business of the founders of Women for Women are these developer activities. So at the beginning, in the year 2012, there was this idea to take one of the newly built houses and transform it to asylum house. And here you see this idea, the first idea. And now I would like you to focus a little bit on the numbers. So in the house there were 17 units. Size of the unit you can see. We wanted there to have other spaces for therapy, administration, and then some, like place where you can watch TV together and so on. And you can see all these estimated prices for the reconstruction, for the operational cost, personal cost, and so on. And this is about the personnel. We have counted 13 full-time positions, plus then services of external psychologists and lawyers. But then the costs and even time when you build the house or reconstruct the house, it somehow, we didn't like it. So we were thinking about faster, cheaper, and more effective solution. So it was decided that actually we would use individual flats with services in several different houses. And it was probably first ever project in the Czech Republic those days, because as I told you, the social housing doesn't exist actually at all, or it exists in some towns, in some municipalities, they have some flats, some houses, in some municipalities, they have nothing. But actually, it's such a complex project. It was the very beginning. So, and now you have comparison that to have these individual flats in different houses means that we have now 30 units and not just 17. Average size is about 50 square meters, which I think is okay. And the general costs or other costs are much lower. And this also includes personnel, because for the asylum house, you needed 13 people, including people who had this night shifts and weekend shifts. But here you need only 4 full-time positions. And of course, still services of external psychologists and lawyers, these services remain the same. Sorry. So these clients, they live in their individual flats, and if they then go and use the services or the in the counseling center, which, as I said, actually is a condition to use the one-year housing. Then they go to the counseling center, so you don't need to keep some space in the asylum house. And here are the general costs again. These two ideas compared to each other, so you can see it's really, really cheaper. But it's not only sorry, it's not only cheaper, but there are also other positive effects of the fact that the clients with difficult situation live in the individual flats and not all together in one asylum house. Because the parents, meaning mostly mothers and their children, are not stigmatized, because nobody knows, if they enter a normal house, it doesn't say you live in an asylum house. So for them and for the self-confidence, it is, of course, much better. Second, again, it's much more natural environment for the children, for their education, for where they, how they develop, because they just grow up in a normal flat without having, to see every day other people in such a bad situation. And of course, what is very important is the feeling of privacy and so on, which I think we all can imagine. And all these are experiences which we actually collected from our clients. Sorry. Now we are slowly coming to conclusions, because this is a general observation of our organization after quite already more than almost 10 years of running these projects and communicating with the clients. First, that housing is just one aspect of the help. Of course, it's an extremely important one, maybe basic one, but and as I said before, there are many families who can live on their own, who have work, who make some money, and for them the help with housing may be enough. But there are many families who are really in extremely bad situation, but psychological situation, legal situation, financial situation, everything collapsed. And in this moment, it's just housing not enough, but they need complex program which helps them to live again independent life, and this is very crucial. We are actually trying to send this message to our state, to our politicians, because nowadays again there is some law. There is another attempt to have some law on social housing, but because it's done by the Ministry of Regional Development, it's focused only on money for housing, money for municipalities, so they can build social housing. But what is missing from this law is that for many families, there is this need for this complex program, and without working with those people who are in need for social housing, it just won't work. Yeah, and the third very important information is that in general, many families in our country, or just people, are not aware at all about their basic rights. They don't have any information, where to go, if they have some trouble, what is their right, which benefits, which social benefits they are entitled to, which are their legal rights. And also for them, it's very complicated because most of them started that they have this. They started to live in some flats or houses for the market prices, and then the problem is that they are often kicked out when they have some problems, financial problems mostly, and they also have no idea about their own rights towards the private owners. Sorry. But I believe that this is a general problem, maybe in all our countries, that people, or also in our case, they often tend to borrow money from strange organizations or institutions, as I already mentioned before, and then their property, if there is anything left, it goes to to the executions, and we have big troubles with it because they really they lose everything, and they really don't know where to help. So one important part of work of women is Women for Women is to make this public, to raise public awareness about all these aspects. And now I'm a bit, actually I ended like 5 minutes earlier, but never mind. But at the end, sorry, as I mentioned several times, Women for Women are raising awareness, but also money for several kinds of projects. And actually this spot, which takes 1 minute, and there is almost just on the end, there is something said in Czech, which I will translate for you. This very spot, Adopt Mary, is actually for raising money for the deposit, sorry, for the flat. So let's look at it. I hope it will work.
Některé příležitosti, kdy můžete pomoci dobré věci, jednoduše nepřehlédnete. Ale zdaleka ne každý, kdo potřebuje pomoc, si tak lehce získá vaši pozornost. Pomozte samoživitelům a jejich dětem vytvořit nový domov. Podpořte projekt Adoptuj Marii příspěvkem na transparentní účet.
So, okay. So, thank you for your attention, but I would like to tell you, to comment the spot that actually on the end, it says it's a voice of a very known actor in the Czech Republic, and it says that not everybody is able to draw attention, meaning like the animals in the zoo garden, and some people need help, even if you don't see it at the first sight, and on the end the voice says help single parents and their children to get proper housing. So okay, so now thank you for your attention, and we can have discussion.